Hey, love, put some tea on. Looks like we've got ourselves a couple guests here at those nerds down the street. Welcome, I'm John.
I'm Britt.
And please come sit down. We're having a nice little discussion on kids' shows and kind of how they affect our children nowadays. So, I remember because I'm from 94. I think you said you're from 96?
97.
97. 97. Sorry. I never can do that right. I can never remember that.
Some of these are actually affected our childhoods.
Yeah. And so what we've decided to do is first we're going to kind of lay some groundwork for what we think makes a good kid show, and then talk about some individual strengths of shows throughout several parts. Today we will be talking about two of the biggest ones from our childhoods, and that is Blue's Clues.
And Dora the Explorer.
Both of them are what I consider to be very good kids show TV. We're going to explain why during this episode by reviewing the first episode of each. And believe it or not, they're kind of set. You know, this is the most impressive thing about these two shows. If you just watch it from the very first episode, guess what? You already know what the show is. It may seem a bit simple, but let's talk about what really makes a show good for a kid. What makes a good kid show is actually pretty box standard. You know, you want to give them a moral sometimes. You don't have to have one, but it's always nice to have one.
Or maybe a lesson to learn.
Maybe teach some uncommon fact about animals, like in Go Diego Go, the spin-off to Dora. I have always thought that was a really good show too. Maybe we'll talk about that someday.
Right.
Not every kid show is going to get talked about, but we are going to pull this subject back and talk about it many times, if we're being honest, just because it's a fascinating thing to see what our kids are watching nowadays. Especially now that we are kind of considering having kids of our own in a few years, maybe down the line a bit. We kind of want to look back. Another thing I think is really important is when it comes to formula. You want to have something the kids can figure out for themselves and make them feel smart. And you kind of want to have the show do a sitcom formula or this formula or that formula. Something that can be easily followed along every single episode. Blue's Clues, it usually has the setup of Blue wants to do something. They sing the songs that pertain to, you know, we're going to play Blue's Clues, and then we go to different parts of the house.
I like the mail time song.
The mail time song. You jump into a painting to go somewhere new that you've never been in the whole show. And that's every episode. That's something I do have to say about that, but we'll talk about that in due time. Other than that, a lot of other stuff is kind of subjective. I can't really talk today, by the way, so if I stutter, that's kind of part of my normal speaking pattern, and I'm just going to let you guys deal with that and make fun of me because it's just hilarious that way. I think that's all we've got for this, so let's talk about September 8th, 96's Snack Time. This is the first episode of Blue's Clues to ever come out, and much respect to Little Airplane. This is such a good show, and I'm so excited to be able to share it with people today. Also realize that we're not talking about your SpongeBobs or your Jimmy Neutrons in this topic. They will get their time in the sun. Oh, trust me, they will. Because we are huge SpongeBob fans. Anyone who knows us personally or saw us on older projects knows that.
We're talking about like literal kid shows.
Yeah, we're talking like preschooler shows.
Right.
And just how much we still unhealthily love them. With that being said, let's get into Blue's Clues and see what the first episode has to offer us. Furthermore, if you have Paramount Plus, each time we cut, we're going to start with a time code. That way you guys know where we are in the episode ourselves, so you can watch it with us and it'll just be like we're watching it together. Ain't that cool? So please enjoy this tour of Snack Time. So we literally got maybe 4 seconds in. We are at the 4-second mark right now.
And there's already so much to talk about.
First of all, I love the stack of books. You can actually see Goodnight Moon.
Corduroy.
And the Hungry Caterpillar.
And that house one, I know, I just can't remember the name of it.
Yeah. There is a Madeline book underneath as well. And I think that might be Frog and Toad up there, but I'm not entirely certain. That might be
it's got a rabbit.
Peter Cottontail, maybe. I don't know.
But I just love how, like, on top there's the Blue's Clues book, and he's got a little paw print, and it says Blue's Clues.
And that's what sets up the stage. Everything is kind of done in a storybook style, and with good effect, because I remember I had some kids' books, the little paper ones that don't have more than like 20 pages. They work really well as books whenever you put Blue's Clues in one, and I've obviously owned a few because this was my jam. Right. I didn't watch much of Barney or Teletubbies because they both freaked me out. For some reason, I liked
Barney.
But those two will get their just desserts in time. I've got some mixed feelings on both.
I was terrified of Teletubbies, but back on subject.
38 seconds. Sorry we're pausing so much here in the beginning, but there is a lot to set up that they set up within blink and you miss its timing.
Right.
So this is the first look at what we would know as the side table drawer. You see the thinking chair for the first time ever. And we see the painting they use to actually warp to the other lands. I also think it's really cool because if you see the painting whenever he opens the door for you after the intro, you always get a little hint of where we're going whenever they get to the painting segment. Right. I always thought that was a cool little idea because then say a kid sees like a snowy land and they're near Christmas, it's just like
they can imagine what it's going to look like.
Yeah. And you're left wondering for a while. It's a small detail. I'm very aware I'm gushing a bit, but you're going to hear gushing out of me for these two shows.
But I love this show. And the next one we're going to be talking about is one of my favorites as well.
Oh, yeah. And to be honest, I mean, my ass is 31. Like, I'm a 94 child, like I said.
28.
And
I still love it.
The love has never gone away from me. Whenever I'm feeling particularly in a crappy mood, I'll throw a kid's show on. I'm not above it. And I'm not gonna say that I ever will be. And don't get me wrong, I'm a South Park nut too. I'm just an animation guy.
Right.
I love animation. I love animation and live action hybrids. I love sitcoms. I just love media. It's where I live. I live in it. And that doesn't sound very sad at all. Let's continue. We are gonna play Blue's Clues 149. Again, more cuts than I really wish I'm gonna try my best not to have to talk about so much. But honestly, we see the ever-present paw print. This is the crux of the whole thing. Because Blue's Clues is a game. It is not just a show. If you are a kid watching this, I'm an adult watching this. So, unfortunately, I kind of know the game too much.
I still yell at the screen, even when I was a kid.
Unfortunately, we're too old to really not understand that the TV isn't able to hear us or whatever. But at the same time, when you were a kid, that shit was excellent. You always had the best way of knowing, like, okay, that has to be milk, right? Like, spoiler alerts, that's just milk. But when you were a kid, you felt freaking awesome if you got that immediately.
Right.
So even the kids who are know-it-alls are just like, I bet you it's this. And then they get to the end, they're like, oh, I knew it. You're pretty much encouraging kids at that point. So no matter what you do with this show, you're a kid, you're going to kind of at least like it a little, more than likely. And I think there's value in simplicity that this whole show has. It actually follows a very clear 3-act structure, not including intro, outro, and all that.
Right.
And there's always certain activities that get done, even though they're vastly different each time. Usually, like I said, there's one more I actually forgot, by the way. Like I said, there's, the actual playing of Blue's Clues. Usually when they find a clue, you have to interact with the show in some way. They're expecting you to be like, it's over there. And I think that interactivity is cool. There is always a game they play that's a little longer with the audience. I believe this one, they do some kind of shape game or something with the refrigerator, I think.
Right.
And we'll talk a bit more about that once we get there. So let's get back to it. 238. I never thought about it till just now as we were watching this. I think it's a nice little detail that the host asks for our help. If you let a kid feel useful, that's another real good thing to build up, their confidence, their this, their that. I know reading into these kind of shows for an adult is a bit much, but really and realistically, we are trying to figure out if these are good TV shows for kids. I feel like we kind of have to entertain thinking that way.
Right.
Like, we got to think more like a kid and how we'd want to feel, just as much as we want to analyze as adults. And I just find it pleasing. I find it pleasing that they need our help.
I find that really good for kids too.
Oh yes,
because it gives them thinking skills.
Absolutely, and problem solving. I mean, Blue's Clues is just chucked full of that.
Right.
334.
We finally get our song in the thinking chair.
Yep. The very theme to this show. That is right. The intro, I call it an intro. I don't call it a theme. Because that, as much as I do love the instrumental in the beginning, the Blue's Clues song is that one.
Right.
It is a call to action. It explains how to play the game that we mentioned earlier. And it's energetic. There's a dance that goes with it. I find this a perfect explanation of everything this show is. If you just listen to it, it says its own premise. And it's fun. I got a 10 out of 10 theme here.
Same.
Especially for its age group. I mean, it's awesome.
I always loved it as a kid. I'd sing right along with it.
Oh, man. I feel like this is going to just devolve into us two basically gushing over these two shows. And I'm not going to be sorry about it either.
Same.
750. All right, some things have transpired. This is where we're going to try to take bigger bites out of the episode. Because all the small details are kind of explained.
This part.
So, first of all, we have found our first Blue's clue, which was indeed a cup. Now, then we actually had a little bit of a visual gag where Steve was trying to find Blue, and she kept on screwing with him, going from under the bed to over it, in that beautiful animated way.
And then we get to help Blue paint some elephants.
Little elephant family of all shapes and sizes. Very fun. And that was actually the first game we've actually played with them. Like I said, this is an example of kind of a longer part of the episode. It kind of teaches kids colors. It can teach them shapes and sizes. It's just subtle little things. They won't learn big ones all at once. But if you just keep them on the show, they'll learn quite a bit. And it's pretty good. 848. Real quick, I wanted to mention this while it was still in frame. If you look in the window of the kitchen, you'll see the first instance of the snail. This pink little snail is something I don't see people talk about too much, but usually you'll see him hidden in the background. And you can see him almost every episode. I don't know if they abandoned it at any point, but like almost everyone I can think of has had it somewhere, and I've seen it so many times. Keep your eyes out if you're watching with your kids. I'm telling you, it's kind of a fun little I Spy game. 917. So this is the first appearance of Mr. Salt and Mrs. Pepper, and the second game is about to commence. And I've got nothing to say of the game. It's just a little shape teaching game. It's using some spilled groceries, and I think it's nice. There's not much to comment on, but I actually do love this whole entire series for this kind of stuff. You always get to see different parts of the house, and you kind of expect something different each time you come back to them. The kitchen has lots of good segments. There's the bedroom, there's the backyard. I don't know if they use the front yard. I don't remember them using the front yard very much. But that might be just my imagination. Eventually, obviously, they would actually expand to a neighborhood, but back in the time we're talking about, this was basically just a house on a hill type situation. Nothing around it. It was the house. We weren't supposed to really think about the wider world. Side note before we get into the next time code, though, I also got to mention there are kid voices in place where you should actually be shouting at the TV. I kind of like that compared to the silence in other cartoons. I think Dora just kind of waits for their audience, right? I kind of like both approaches, but something about not hearing anything does make that show a little harder to watch at times.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the action. 11:16. That was a really cool little game they played. I think it's really good to teach kids shapes, like I said before. Though I really wish I knew how Salt and Pepper move their mouths like that, because honestly, it's a little bit weird. I tried to make some of the faces they did. It just doesn't really work.
I mean, I guess that would be so. I mean, we're human.
It's kind of funny because watching this as an adult in order to talk about it on this episode kind of makes me look at it in a way like I still can't see anything adult-like because there's obviously nothing to see, but it's just extraneous details that that are kind of coming to me for the first time this time around. It's actually kind of refreshing to go over it with an adult tooth comb, you know. It's also quite interesting
to watch him ask, "Will you show me the shape?" even though he knows what it is.
There was only one shape left. It was the grapes. It was a triangle. So there was no way
that he didn't know what it was.
But that's just the beauty of it. Kids already figured it out. They're like, well, duh. But he ain't. That's why I just love this show so much for how much it's
I loved it as
doing its best to make the kids feel smart. That's probably gonna be in spoiler territory about my feelings. That's the show's biggest strength, is how simple they make it for kids without feeling so patronizing.
Right.
There is a bit of patronizing going on, I think, but it's to a necessary degree. I don't think it's a bad thing. 12:31. The silliest straw we ever saw. Just like Steve.
I still wonder how the little paw prints got on there, because the dog's so much bigger than that.
There are 3 of them. So did she just I guess it's because they can actually warp their size. We saw Blue do that. In fact, we saw it during the elephant game.
Yeah, that's true. I get it now.
So she can resize herself. I wonder if that's just how she did it. She just
Yeah, but how did what did she do? Just walk on those 3 parts and that's it?
I mean, but they come off the sides of the straw.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, I think we aren't supposed to be thinking about this.
That's true.
Going back to my last point, it's just one of those things where seeing it as an adult is sillier. In fact, I'm kind of having a lot of fun just doing that. I love it. It's kind of fun. 15:11. And we just now saw a video of some kid from around the U.S. Just talking about snacks. Honestly, they did this a lot. I think Teletubbies did it with the TVs on their stomachs. not a particularly lovely example, but to be honest, we're not really talking about them. But this isn't something that's unique to this show, but I do like the format in which they did it. The mail time slot being kids is kind of cool.
Plus, I like the mail time song.
Oh, yeah. Here's the mail, it never fails, it makes me wanna wag my tail. 1833, one of the last times we'll be cutting for Blue's Clues snack time. It was a cute little game that we were playing, getting chicks with hats. It's real cute, charming, and
plus he looks really annoyed. But
yeah,
he's trying to be nice.
I think that was always just great about Steve, is he always just wants to help people. That's always been a great character trait for just a host of any kid show. Is just patient and nice. I also feel like this isn't very nice for me to say, but you can tell at the very dead bottom, if you're watching this like we are on Paramount, you could actually see the green screen cuts right under Steve's leg and to my arm. And it makes me remember that this is still technically a small show at this point. This is before we really had a sense of what this would become. Because this is a staple for 90s kids. This is
before they were able to do something really big with it.
Yeah. Just seeing Little Airplane use such small but crude things is just kind of lovely. And it kind of makes me realize that this wasn't always the big thing it is now. And something about that makes me even happier than just watching it straight through. I'm kind of glad I'm doing this, really. 2342. The So Long Song of Blue's Clues. Honestly, it holds up. It holds up and then some. I think
so
Blue's Clues
too.
Is just one of those things where you can't really get much better than it. You can, but it's just not something that happens a lot. I'd put this on just some of the top-rated kids shows.
I know, I love this show. I used to watch it a lot as a kid.
I even curiosity popped in an episode of Blue's Clues and You. It's just as charming as this one. It's just Blue's Clues for a new generation, and I think the new guy's name is Josh. I believe he was real good for the role. Honestly,
nobody will replace Steve though in my heart.
I mean, he was our host though. I mean, that's fair. That's extremely fair. But honestly, just as long as Blue has a host just as nice as Steve, I think this show is going to continue to work, even if they make 7 more. Just keep making generations of Blue's Clues. Because that's what's cool about it. You don't really need all that big of a cast whenever you just have one host and a bunch of animated icons. It just makes it a great idea, while giving you the live action stuff that you'd need. And with that, let's move on to Dora. The Spanish-loving Dora the Explorer series.
This was one of my all-time favorites as a kid.
Oh, yes. I've always thought it was kind of cool how it was kind of ran like a computer game in a way. I've always thought that was cool that they had the little mouse arrow. I kind of am not going to be mentioning that throughout the picture, but just know that generally whenever you're meant to kind of play along, usually your answer will be followed by a mouse moving across the screen to click on stuff that you're supposed to look at.
I absolutely love that aspect of it.
I love it because even if kids wouldn't have seen it, now you got an arrow pointing to it. Again, it goes back to not being so patronizing, but if they get it before the arrow, they get to feel a little bit achieved. Yeah, I saw that before the arrow. It's a small bit of the show that I don't really think will fit anywhere during our review of the episode. This is Lost and Found from April 7th, 2003. This was not a 90s show.
No, but I did grow up with it.
Oh, I grew up with it all the same, but it's kind of crazy to think, ain't it? I was 8. I was 8 by the time this was a thing, man.
I would have been 5.
Or wait.
Because I'm 3 years younger than you.
Yeah, I was 8 whenever this premiered.
Yeah, I was 5 when it premiered then.
So, I was getting on the upper edge, but here's the thing. I never just had that, like, teenage, I don't need to watch cartoons thing anymore. I've always just kind of watched everything
Same. I
that I could
love
get my
cartoons.
hands on. Especially because back in those days, this was before Netflix, and we didn't really adopt Wi-Fi very quickly, so there's a lot of things we didn't really do as quick as other people. Just
We're the
because
same.
of kind of my location didn't have very good internet options up until a little story I had with Mom. Maybe a different day we'll talk about that. But just know we were technologically a few years behind a lot of people. And that's kind of how I came about having to watch just whatever was on TV, was that's just kind of how it was. So, Lost and Found. Let's see what it's got. Just like with Blue's Clues, we will be watching this on Paramount Plus. So, if you follow the time codes, you can also kind of follow along with the episode, see where we're at. 29 seconds in. And this is one hell of an intro for kids. I can tell you something. This kind of is not much more than a roll call type situation. I don't want to make it sound like a slight. It almost reminds me of Peppa Pig's intro, where it's not so much a theme song as it is roll call.
Better than Peppa Pig, though.
I mean, this one literally just keeps on shouting Dora's name.
Right, this is the intro that I loved waiting for on Saturday mornings.
Oh, yeah. But all that being said, theme song's not the cool part. You get to see pretty much all the animal friends and stuff.
See Tika, Issa, Benny, Boots, and Dora.
Yep. Benny the bull, Issa the iguana, and Tika the squirrel. Now, Tika, he's mechanically one of the most interesting ones in the whole show because he's the only one that actually speaks full Spanish and nothing else. Mm-hmm. Even when I was a kid, I remember kind of trying to keep up and seeing if I could figure out what he was saying.
Same, but I could never figure out what he was saying.
But nowadays, I wonder if that was the point.
I got okay at Spanish by watching this show.
Yeah. It just makes you wonder if they were mechanically trying to make kids kind of try to keep up with Tico, thusly helping them review and maybe make it stick a little better. But now I'm not sure whether to give the show credit for it or whether that's just a musing of mine. I'm sure we're never going to know. 206. Oh my god. Look, I do respect this show to death, but being an adult kind of makes this less effective as a show.
For me, I still like it, but it might just be nostalgia for me.
Oh, I've still got lots of nostalgia. I do like the show, don't get me wrong. It's just that there is a problem with, like, the pauses that I mentioned during Blue's Clues and how they just kind of sit there for a couple of frames doing completely bugger all.
I guess we can't really blame it for it because that's what it's supposed to do because it's a kid's show.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're leaving room for the kids to respond. And that's what they're doing for basically all the pauses in this show. But looking back is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. I'm going to try not to get too mad about that part. Mechanically, again, makes sense. 234. So here we find our plot device, a baby bluebird, just kind of missing from its nest. Honestly, never touch a baby bluebird. Don't touch any baby bird. The mom won't take it back. But, you know, ethical concerns aside, the real big thing here is, I gotta say, always did like how they knew how to keep the stakes small but serious enough to go forward. They always kind of know what conflicts are just about right for kids to watch.
I like that they also, they always find something that needs help, like a small animal, and have them help it.
Yeah. It's always the, oh, I lost my favorite item, or
oh, I lost my friend,
I need to get to this place. It's always something mechanically simple that kids can learn from. And who knows, they might have even seen it on the playground or something. You know, it's always stuff that could come up in just general life, even if it is through the eyes of a kid and a bunch of animals being the actors, you can always glean stuff from that. And I think there's a lot of value to that.
I agree.
327. And this is a little bit of a guessing game for kids here.
I love it. It's the backpack song.
Yep. So this is where we're introduced to Backpack. We just heard the song. But you always see a bunch of random items, and Dora typically only needs one of them, maybe two in an episode. I'm thinking. Seems like it.
Yeah, I think so.
Seems like there was times where they used two. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just nuts. But honestly, I've always liked the idea of just having items and stuff like that kids can guess with. I think it's real good for them to be able to recognize general day objects. It's a little bit of a smaller thing. I'm aware I'm talking about that's a trumpet, that's a ball, that's a magazine. It does seem a little bit silly to call that a good mechanic of the show, but we are talking about smaller kids here, to be honest.
Like me, when I started watching this, I was a little kid.
Yeah.
A little kid.
Just having a guessing game with items kind of tells them, oh, this is that, that's this. It's not the most important part of the show. In fact, I am going to say something a little bit mean about this show, but do realize that I don't think every show needs this. You don't really get as much education in your face as it is people just talking the language, and you kind of learn Spanish from it.
Right.
Maybe you'll learn a little something about friendship or this or that. But there's never as much in terms of education in this show compared to some of the rest I've seen. I always did find that kind of okay, though, because you don't need to just shove their brains full of stuff till there can't be anything else in there. You don't want to pound it into their heads at that age.
You sometimes want shows that also give a little bit of fun.
Yeah, kids gotta have fun. Simple as that. 628. So this is the map. The map song is kind of just like the theme where they just keep saying Dora, Dora, Dora. Now they're just saying map, map, map.
But it also shows locations, and I love that.
This is actually a character that I think is great.
Right.
Because he is clearly a magical map.
I love it.
I'm pretty sure magic is actually canonically here in the universe of Dora.
Right.
We've seen a lot of fantastical things, so it's not ridiculous. I mean, we got big red chickens, animals talk. And I think that's always been a kind of clear thing.
What I like about the map is it shows the different locations that you got to go to before you get to the place that you're going.
I also think this kind of helps a lot with the structure of the show. If it wasn't for the map, the show really couldn't keep going the way that it does. I've always thought this is a good way to get a 3-act structure put in immediately. I really do think that the iconography is pretty clear. Oh, we're going to go to a palm tree or a palm forest. Then we're going to go to a cornfield. Then we're going to get to the little blue tree. And that's just kind of cool. It's just, it instantly sets up everything. Doesn't give anything away, though.
I like that.
It's real cool.
A subtle thing that shows you the places you're going to be going without actually telling you anything about the places.
Yeah. It just occurred to me that this is basically a road trip cartoon.
Right.
And I kind of do love that. It's kind of cool.
I like that it makes the kids think, too.
Yeah. You get to go to a different location at least 3 times an episode. This show, I will say, I wonder how hard it was to produce because there's so many backgrounds that are completely unique. Mm-hmm. Like I said, there's 3 locations in each episode that are completely unique to that episode.
Right, and I like that.
Just kind of like how Blue's Clues had their paintings. That's always been kind of the way. It seems like to me the main parts that are kind of normal are the roads between where they sing their songs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we're gonna. I will mention one character that I know is not in this episode because I just realized he won't be here, and that is the grumpy old troll.
Aw, I like the grumpy old troll though.
I do want to talk about him though. He is this adorable little troll. He is a yellow troll.
I think he makes you solve a puzzle before you can cross his bridge.
Yep, he makes you. He basically makes you do a riddle or something. I can't remember exactly.
I think it's like either a puzzle or a riddle or something. I can't remember exactly either, but I know he makes you do something so that you can cross his bridge.
Yep. He is somewhat of a recurring character, but you don't see him. Right. I bet if you like counted how many times, you probably wouldn't show up more than a dozen times.
If I'm not mistaken, he's the one that sings, I'm the grumpy old troll who lives under the bridge.
If you want to get over, all you gotta do is ask. All you gotta do is ask. Yeah, no, that guy.
I love that guy.
My God. I can barely remember anything about his questions, but the second you get a freaking song going on.
I know, right?
8:57 and the Where Are We Going song has been played.
And I sung along with every word.
It's actually still catchy. I was still having a perfectly lovely time with it.
From the song, we know that we're going from the banana tree to the cornfield to the little blue tree.
Yep, and they sung about the little blue tree. Honestly, the song's great. The only other thing I've really got to say about these kind of interstitial songs, I do love the painted look of all the backgrounds and some of the foreground elements.
The look of it.
I've always been a huge fan of hand-painted scenery. I will make it no mystery as to why. It's just plain gorgeous to me. And even with simpler 2D characters in it, it just looks really damn impressive.
Well, even though he's not a kid painter, it reminds me of Bob Ross.
Yeah, see, it's interesting, right? Because we've got a little more detail than Bob Ross, and somehow less at the same time. Like, you get actual trees here, you know? I mean, right. You always make indications of a tree, mostly with Bob Ross. I mean, if you look at it, it really does look like a pine tree. Right. Or a regular tree, just kind of depending. Here you can definitely tell their trees a little better. You know, the bushes have flowers on them.
I love how these little flowers are painted down the bottom, too.
Yeah, just all of it's real well composed and just really chill on the eyes. 1356.
So, we've had our first encounter with Swiper.
We've actually decided to just kind of wait until all of his stuff was done, and now they're trying to cheer up the little blue bird and all that.
Because he scared it off.
Mechanically, I love Swiper as a kid show villain.
I love him as a kid show villain. He makes a good villain.
Yeah. He's not really intimidating or scary in any way.
He's just a little fox that wears a mask and gloves that likes to steal things.
Yep. And then just throw them. He doesn't even take them or nothing. He just doesn't want the main characters to have them. And that usually, if there's a funny thing about him is that he can actually win sometimes. He actually does get his hand on the stuff sometimes. Sometimes he don't.
The fact that he takes it not to like steal it though,
but to just throw it,
an inconvenience, it makes it so much better. It makes him so much better as a villain.
Because you can definitely tell, like, don't let people take your things is kind of the idea, but I like how they're not, like, making things go away that way.
I like that too, actually.
Something about the items not really being stolen is kind of a good thing.
It oddly makes me kind of happy.
Yeah. They kind of, I guess they just realize, like, you can't make the items actually go, or else then that just becomes a, oh crap, he just stole that.
And oh crap, it's teaching little kids to steal.
Yeah. It kind of just throws a lot of arguments about stealing out the window and just says it's not okay. Oh, and by the way, we actually realized that we actually didn't talk about the first time they got to the bananas, which is the first little place they were going. But there was actually a weird thing about that. We really didn't talk about that because mechanically nothing changed in the episode. There wasn't
really much to talk about there.
Yeah. But I did notice that the bug band is missing from this episode. So I guess that just wasn't a thing in the beginning. Because after every single time they actually clear an area that they're trying to get to,
it plays its little song.
Yeah, it's a little like da 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 da, and it's just always cute. I wanted to mention that because just like the troll, I guess we're not gonna see him.
Which is sad, but hey.
But it's fine. I'm just glad we actually remembered about that because would have been a tragedy if I didn't say anything. 1643. You know, I don't remember this being a thing, but I like it. They're actually getting someone to get up and do a little monkey dance that Boots does.
I love it.
Getting the kids up and active, that's actually kind of a cool idea. I'm not going to say much about fitness, but like it is important to get exercise. So I do like that it's trying to encourage it.
I like that too.
Yeah. This show has a lot more substance than I remember. I have had to give it a lot more accolade than I thought I would in this whole episode, you know, like it's actually a lot more than I remember it being. I just kind of only remember learning Spanish a lot from it. But I'm kind of glad we did this deep dive today because I really am actually relearning this. It was quite a good show. 1844. This is a really cool way to teach someone Spanish, is to give them a task to yell at the TV. They're trying to teach them the word azul, blue in Spanish.
Now they're trying to teach them how to get the little baby bluebird from one end to another.
Yep. He's got a little maze where he can't touch red rocks, but he can touch blue ones. It's just a whole lot of good stuff going on here.
So it also gives you a little color-coded thing to learn.
Yeah. I think this is just a real good way to teach them. I always did think that was clever. 2234. Basically, this is the end of the episode. We just heard the We Did It song.
And they returned the baby bird home.
To its mom. On the little blue tree. It was just a great episode. I think this is pretty much the last cut we're going to make because, to be honest with you, this is a functionally done episode and
I love it.
This is giving me a much bigger appreciation for this show now that I've looked back on it. I have a lot of newfound respect for the writers and
I still have
the
so
artists.
Much nostalgia for it.
Good lord, what a good review and what a good episode. Thank you guys so much for coming to this first part. We are going to be pulling kids show topics like this for quite a few shows. We'll always do 2 at a time, loosely tied together with some kind of theming if we can help it. Many of the shows will be somewhat similar in theme or maybe something like that. We'll talk about it off screen.
And we hope you guys will enjoy that.
Yep. Sorry this episode took so long to get out. Unfortunately, I've been working way too many hours at work, and this was finally enough time to break out, even though this whole episode took a week and a half to actually record. Yeah, you've heard us over the course of like 5 days worth of recording, just because that's how little time we've had.
But we did it.
And thank you guys so much for coming. Please come back and down the street and visit us nerds again.